From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Isabel Westbury, still in Melbourne because I'm not scheduled to leave until tomorrow, as today was meant to be the fifth and final day of the Boxing Day test between Australia and England's men. As it is, they finished 2 days ago, and I'm left with, well, I've got the MCG to my left. It's a lovely, lovely view as the sun sets here in Melbourne, but it's a slightly muted feeling around the England camp at the moment.
Jim Maxwell. I'm in Sydney. I've been here for a couple of days, actually. I was supposed to be somewhere else, but I don't know what happened. It all finished a bit suddenly, didn't it? Quite astonishing. Anyway, people are worried about tests here in Sydney, but not the cricket. They're worried about getting a COVID test. That seems to have been the preoccupation of the nation for the last couple of days, and the Pollies are now trying to sort it all out. So when we get through this next little period, we'll have another test match, and goodness knows what that's going to produce.
Well, from the looks of it, not very much. Hello, everybody. This is Charu Sharma for All India Radio. I'm in Bangalore, but forget about the Ashes because they're all over and done and dusted. But one of the better things about matches ending early is the commentators get a free day or two, you see. So, take it easy. And I suppose the attention of the cricket world may shift to South Africa now, where India are battling them and are probably going to win this first test match anyway, at a ground that they've never won before and where South Africa hasn't lost at all. So big turnaround there in the fortunes of the Indian cricket team. I'm glad to be home, going through lots of physiotherapy to correct my torn right shoulder and watching a lot of cricket. What better?
Jim, I feel as though digs at the English are going to pierce this whole show. So I'll start with my own. I saw on Twitter a very funny joke with all the testing queues for COVID, that if you want a rapid test, you should just play the English. So there you go. All right, then, let's start here in Australia, where it only took the hosts 12 days to retain the Ashes. On the morning of the third day of the third test, Australia beat England by an innings and 14 runs to take an unassailable 3-0 series lead. England were bowled out for just 68 in their second innings, which is their lowest total in Australia since 1904. Right then, we will discuss where it all went wrong for England. But first, I guess we must congratulate Australia, who did have their own doubters before the Ashes even started. Jim, is it just a case of Australia and each player being better in every area, or is it something else?
Pretty much. You look at the bowling, the batting. England can't tick any box next to the Australians, really. They had their bad start, lousy preparation, got on the wrong end of the argument in Brisbane, and they've never been able to pick up. They probably didn't pick the right side. I don't think it would have made any difference who they picked the way the Australian team is going. There's a lot of momentum there. And one of the strange things about this series is that unlike last year against India, having bowled India out for 36 and then going on to lose the series, Australia, for various reasons, has had to freshen its attack, which India did in that series accidentally. Same things happened to Australia. And that's been a fascinating part of all this, with Richardson coming in, got 5 wickets. He goes out, and some bloke called Boland, who's he? He got 6 for 7. So that's been a factor in a curious way when you're backing up bowlers and the rest of it. But Australia's just omnipotent compared to England, who've got so many inadequacies with their batting, with their catching, with their wicket keeping comparatively, and to some extent with their bowling, although I think that could have better kept them in the series if they could have made a few more runs. But it's all kind of snowballed, as these things tend to do when you're backing up. And that's why I loved Test cricket when the Ashes was on, when they came to Australia and were here for 4 months, and they went up country and played some other team. They played a state team. Take your breath if you've had a bad day or two and get ready for the next one. But you can't do that now. And on top of all that, we've got this dreadful disruptor called COVID, which is driving us all around the twist and forcing people away from the ground, as we're seeing now. Even the match referee has tested positive.
So here's my question then. So Australia bounced back from India. They've obviously learned a lot of lessons. They were fresh. They've got a new captain under Cummins. Things are going well. Happy days. They've won the Ashes in 3-0. They're looking for a 5-0 whitewash. But Australia go to Pakistan after this, and then they look as though they might have 3 tours to the subcontinent in the next year. Are we over-egging Australia's capability here, Jim, or is this really the start of a golden era of Australian cricket, men's Test cricket?
It is potentially, I think, the start of a golden era, but it's not assured. In looking at Australia's record in recent years on the subcontinent, they've mainly struggled, particularly against India. So they're going to have to do with thinking about what their best batting lineup is, and whether line needs some support that they haven't really got at the moment. They talk about Swepson, but I think they might have to take a bit of a West Indian attitude towards the subcontinent, and that is, who are your best bowlers, and go with them.
So, this is the wonderful journalistic question where we don't have to solve the problem, we just have to ask the question: who is to blame, Charu? Who is at fault for making this all go wrong? Whose head has to roll?
Well, luckily, as you said, we're not looking for solutions, but not Joe Root, because I don't think the solution lies in changing personnel at that level. Joe Root's done as much as any individual could. So let's leave the captain alone. Let's not shake up that end of the English cricket. Yes, I think English cricket's also waking up to the international trend of perhaps focusing a little more on white ball cricket. I know Jim's not going to like this, but I'll say it, that red ball cricket is not growing. And white ball cricket is. So England have realized that, and perhaps realized the commercial value there as well, and are focusing on producing more players who are winning World Cups for England, as they just have, rather than Test matches or certainly the Ashes. They're not a particularly bad team. I think Australia are a particularly good team in red ball cricket, which is why England are made to look very ordinary at this point of time. Systemically, though, this whole business of the coach selecting the players, I think that's a dream come true as well, because the coach and the captain would love to get involved with who they want to play with. But perhaps they need a wider selection system as used to exist in the past, because maybe those guys can focus a lot more on what's happening in cricket around the whole country rather than just a select few players. So maybe a little bit of selection issue in England for sure, but not captaincy change.
It hurts. It really does. I need to move on to brighter and better things. We're going to talk about India, who are currently on day 5 of their first Test match against South Africa. At the time of recording, South Africa are 94 for 4 and need a further 211 runs to win. Charu, you've been watching this closely. In fact, I think you probably are watching it as we're speaking right now. Who have your standout performers been?
Well, it's all about the start that the Indian batsmen gave themselves. Kohli won the toss, elected to bat, which was a very bold move considering the pitches there. And the fact that India too hasn't played all that much. And it's a big tour for them. So there's a lot of additional pressure, as there must have been in Australia a year or so ago when India won, because it was the final frontier. Now South Africa is the definitive final frontier for the Indian cricket team. And for them to have batted so well to begin with, Mayank and Rahul particularly, so we'll have to give maybe 10 on 10 to that pair, because a good start really meant so much. And for the rest of the players in the dressing room, I know there was the Indian collapse later on, but more on that later. I think there's been a lot of calm and ease, saying, well, this is okay, this is all right, then we're not getting, we're not 40 for 4 or whatever. So those two guys for sure. I think the Indian bowling had the luxury of having that number of runs behind them and bowled reasonably well. India's got a very good medium pace attack anyway. So if the conditions are conducive for fast bowling, then the Indians are just as good, if not better, than the South Africans at this point of time. The only thing that, and you mentioned over the stars, I mentioned a couple, but there's some criticism, I suppose, about the fact that a lot of people in various cricket groups are talking about how India collapsed on the second day from wherever it was for 3 to not very much. I think lost 70 wickets, 70 runs and maybe 6-7 wickets or so. That was only, and I can understand why, because of the weather threat. And even in the second innings, the Indians played very quickly to try and get a lead as quickly as possible because of the weather conditions. And I think that's a good aggressive sign to try and bowl out, or to have enough time to bowl out South Africa in the second innings.
One question I do have is that, well, media speculation, we're all guilty. Just as Joe Root is continuing to chase that elusive century in Australia, everyone likes to cast doubt about the star performers. And who more so than Virat Kohli, who has ended 2021 without scoring a century. His last ton, as I understand it, was in 2019 against Bangladesh. Charu, is his form a worry in India, or are we obsessing over some statistics?
Well, he's the big problem. He is the big problem right now. Not so much. I think the focus has shifted, thank God for him, just a bit from his not scoring runs to this whole captaincy issue between white ball cricket and then, of course, him resigning from T20 and the cricket board saying, well, you can't be, an ODI captain as well, his press conference and all of those off-the-field matters seem to now be garnering more attention than Virat Kohli's form on the field, because if India continue to win, remember, some bad performances get layered over. Because, yes, if you look at Kohli's figures, he hasn't done very much. He did a reasonable amount in the first innings. But if India do go ahead and win, which should be just in a few hours from now, then I think it'll all be papered over, saying, all right, Kohli another poor test, never mind. But, captain goes so, because the captain does get a little bit of attention when the team wins or accolades, as it were. So I'm sure internally for him, it must be a really big worry, because he's a very proud batsman, one of the best in the world. And for him to not score a test match century in 3 years, or nearly 3 years or 2.5 years, he must surely be wondering, how long do I stay in the game? Because as I said of Mahendra Singh Dhoni, what more can Virat Kohli get from the game? He's a millionaire many times over, the kind of following he has. So maybe we're now looking at an earlier Virat Kohli retirement, if I can use that term. Then I'm not suggesting he's thinking about it, but it could be because he's not getting runs. He might say, well, listen, I don't want to stay in this arena any longer because I don't need it.
Now, we still have 2 men's Ashes tests to go, and thank goodness it is less than a month until the women's Ashes begins in Australia. Some salvation, please, from the men's Ashes, or smashes, as I think I've seen them being dubbed here in the newspapers. To explain with the women's Ashes, these are played out across a multi-format series where the 2 teams contest 1 test, 3 ODIs and 3 2020s with weighted points for each match. So I think it's essentially 4 points for a test win and 2 points for a white ball win. England have lost their previous 2 home Ashes series, 12-4 in 2019 and 10-6 in 2015, but they drew 8-8 in Australia in 2017. So it's all topsy-turvy. With the rise in COVID-19 cases in both England and Australia, in the countries, not necessarily the cricket teams, or at least I hope not yet, the touring sides are being extra careful before they get on the plane. So we at Stumped were wondering how the preparations are going. And I'm delighted to say that we're joined by England bowler Kate Cross. Kate, hello, welcome to Stumped.
Hello, Izzy, how are you?
Very well. So then I should put the question to you. How are the preparations going less than a month out?
To be honest, they've changed quite a lot from what we anticipated them to be a month ago. I think just that's the environment that we're living in at the moment with COVID, and obviously the rise of cases in the UK has meant that our preparation has changed quite a lot. We were lucky enough to go over to Oman just at the beginning of December and have a 2-week training camp over there. But now we're pretty much on our own, bowling at a set of stumps and making sure we're not within 2 meters of anybody. So it's probably not the prep that we were hoping for, but I think it's just something we've come to live with in COVID times, is how adaptable we are and how ready we can be when we get on the plane next Friday.
The last time, thinking back to when you do eventually arrive in Australia, that the last time England won the Ashes was in 2014 in Perth, and you were an integral part of that side. How much does that experience help you sort of spur on this England team? How much do you look back to past performances?
Interestingly, I only kind of realised a couple of weeks ago that this is my first Ashes I've been selected for over in Australia since that debut in 2014. I think the whirlwind of what an international career brings is that you kind of think you've done more than you have. So I was quickly reminded that I've actually only played 1 test match over there and wasn't involved in the 2017 Ashes where the girls drew. So I think for me, it's an excitement level that almost mirrors when I first got selected. I've not had these opportunities and experiences since 2014. I've had the luxury of going over to Australia and playing and getting used to the conditions domestically. but I've not actually played international cricket out there since 2014. So that's a long time ago now. I was a young pup when I was in that team. So yeah, I think there's more an element of excitement and what can we do as a team going over there. We've obviously seen with the men how difficult it's been and the scrutiny that you're under when it's not going well. So I think, yeah, there's that kind of element of just what we certainly want to get going now. We'll make sure we want to be on the plane as well. I think there's a lot of anxiety around maybe potentially missing that flight and what could be if you do miss that plane. So I think there's just that, let's go, let's please get on that plane and start playing some cricket again.
Hello, Kate. Jim Maxwell here. How wary are you of this Australian side? And apart from yourself, who are the biggest threats in the England side to Australia?
Yeah, I think we've learnt the hard way as an England team, as most teams do when they come up against a strong Australian team. But yeah, we learnt the hard way back in 2019 that this is a very, very strong Australian team at the moment. And I think from our point of view, we're not naive to that. We know it's going to be really tough to win an Ashes in Australia. And we're prepared for that as well. I think we have had a good 12 months of cricket despite the circumstances of COVID. And that started really around 12 months ago when we got to travel to New Zealand in the height of the pandemic. So it's been obviously good to get a little bit of cricket away from home. You know, it's quite easy to get used to your home conditions. So it's been good to have that away tour that we managed to get back in February. But in terms of our team, I mean, we've got some absolute superstars in our team, and you know, the likes of Catherine Brunt still going. She's still churning out performances. Tammy has been absolutely phenomenal in one-day cricket for us over the past 3 years now, and obviously she's opening the batting for us. And then you've got the likes of Danny Wyatt and Sophia Dunkley, who are in that middle order in probably all formats of cricket now. You know, Danny fought really hard to get herself back into the one-day team. So I think there's a real nice balance of youth that we've got in the team and experience. And it does just feel like a really nice balance of youth, fun, experience, everything that you need when you're going on tough away tours, really.
Kate Cross, thank you so much for giving us your time, and good luck getting out there, and good luck once you do get there.
Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for having me.
That's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped on All India Radio. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter. We are at BBCWS Sport and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. And check us out on YouTube too. Go to BBC World Service YouTube. My thanks to Charu Sharma, Jim Maxwell, and to all of you for listening. Speak to you next week. Goodbye.
From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.